Hello, so today I wanted to do a bit of a chatty video talking about, I guess, some of my goals for 2018 in relation to booktube and reading. I know that this is the time of year in which everyone's kind of reflecting on the previous year. I don't like to spend too much time reflecting because I can get a little bit doom and gloom about it. So rather than do that, what I want to do is kind of look ahead and think about some of my goals for next year, and I've written some of them down, so I'm going to chat about them. One of my major goals next year, which is kind of funny that I've just started this channel, but actually my main goal next year is to cut down in the amount of books that I read. I think that I read too many, and the reason why I find that problematic, well, there's a couple of things. Number one, it ends up being a little bit pressure filled, and even though I still enjoy it, and there's still an enjoyment for me in finishing a book, I think that if I lower my goal, then I can spend more time with the books that deserve it. There's some books that are really suited to being devoured, whereas there's some other books that I really think that they deserve more time. Particularly in literary fiction, in which the writing's quite poetic, I think that I need to actually step back and pay attention to just how gorgeous it is to read, because it is something that I find enjoyable, but sometimes I rush it. So I want to cut down in the number of books that I aim to read. I normally read over 100, so I've kind of cut it back massively and said 60. It's really 50 in my mind, but I'm kind of giving an extra 10 because that kind of counts for like graphic novels or if I read a short essay book or something. So really it's 50, but I have written down 60, so 60 is the overall aim, I guess. Another reason why I want to cut down in the number of books I read is because I do have quite poor concentration, and I know that that's really problematic. I read books but I don't necessarily take them in, and I want to be able to kind of rectify that a little bit by not rushing them so much. And if I read an entire chapter but don't take it in, I want to allow myself to go back and reread it, which isn't something I do. I usually kind of end up ploughing through it and hoping to kind of pick it up as I go along, which means I'm going to be missing a lot of stuff. So I want to dedicate more time to the books that really deserve it, so that I can get more out of them and the books are really getting the attention that they deserve as well. Another reason why I want to cut down on the number of books I read is because I do have other outside interests as well as reading. So in my spare time, I guess I read, I watch Netflix, I go running, I play my guitar, I sometimes draw, I write, and I guess that's the main one that I want to discuss here. I want to spend more time next year writing, and this channel isn't anything to do with that. I mean, I do have a couple of poetry videos up here, but this is still going to be a place in which I will predominantly be talking about the books that I'm reading. But I am in the middle of writing a novel that I started a long time ago, but I just haven't sat down and spent time writing it, and I do want to continue with it. So next year, one of my main goals is to write a significant chunk of that. If I could do a first draft, that'd be great, but really it's just if I could write at least half of it, and this is just something that I'm doing for myself. It's not really with the aim of like getting it published. I just like the idea of being able to say that I can do it. So this year I've spent a lot of time reading, and I think that to write, it is really important to read, but I don't want to spend all of next year just reading loads of books and not actually being able to do my own writing. So I want to spend more time writing next year, so my novel as well as poetry, because I haven't done that for a while, and as well as writing new material, I also want to make more poetry videos. So that's a lot of kind of experimental video using found footage combined with my poetry. I want to do more of that. It might be something I put up here, but really again, this is a place in which I will be talking about books more than anything. But I just don't want to read as much next year because I want to pay attention to the books that deserve it, and I want to be able to spend more time doing writing. There's some more sort of specific goals I have in terms of reading, but before I get into that, I guess just to chat briefly about BookTube. I put up a couple of videos on BookTube way back at the beginning of this year, and I think that's whenever I first discovered BookTube. I only did a couple, and then for whatever reason life got in the way and I didn't continue with it, and this time round I really have kind of made more of an effort to kind of stick with it, and I've really enjoyed doing it, and it's something that I definitely want to continue throughout next year. I don't have any specific goals with it because I am still a complete newbie to it, and I don't know the exact type of content that I want to create yet. I just know that I want to, just put out there whatever I want to put out there, and whoever wants to watch it can watch it, I know a lot of people probably won't like my videos. I do swear a lot, I can be quite blunt, and I'm very willing to be negative about a book. But it's something that I'm really enjoying doing, and I want to continue with that. So like I said, there's no specific goal in mind with that. It's just something that I want to continue with. I guess, you know, I've been trying to put videos up twice a week, so on a Wednesday and a Friday. I guess I want to continue with that sort of schedule. I am in the middle of reading this illustrated edition of Harry Potter. I want to kind of make that a goal for next year, that I read the rest of them. So the Chamber of Secrets is out, and the Prisoner of Azkaban came out this year as well. And I think that next year, I think they're coming out every year, so it's next year I guess it's to read the second, third and fourth one. I have no idea what the fourth one's going to look like, because these are already pretty heavy and massive, so I don't know if they're going to split the rest up, but basically I just want to make that a new kind of project to read the illustrated editions of Harry Potter. Another one that I've probably mentioned on here before is I want to read a lot more of the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. So I have the first 10 in the series. I've read the first 3 so far, so I'm reading them in publication order. I have written down here to read the first 10 books in the Discworld series. I may end up reading more than that, less than that, but I think that that's an easy goal to kind of go for, because I do actually own the first 10. I think 2015 I read mostly science fiction, 2016 it was mostly fiction, and I think again this year it was mostly fiction as well. So it's always a case of looking at what have I not read enough of. I mean, I've enjoyed everything that I have picked up, but it's always kind of an opportunity to kind of maybe allow myself to branch out and read other things that I don't read as much. So I have put down here to read more poetry. I think that's really important. Like I said, in terms of writing my novel, I think that it's really important to read a lot, so I am pleased that I've read a lot this year and the previous years. But poetry is one thing that I need to read more of, because I do write poetry and I do really enjoy reading poetry, but for some reason I don't pick it up as often as anything else. So to read more poetry, that's a definite goal for next year. Another goal is to read more graphic novels, and more particularly with that, it's to read more graphic memoirs. I recently read Fun Home and really enjoyed it. So I want to read more graphic memoirs or historical and true accounts. I think that it's a really interesting way to present things that are actually true, and it's definitely something I want to explore more. So that's another goal for next year. I have written down here to read 4 history books. That I think I was just trying to give myself some kind of number to aim for. History is something that I really want to get into a little bit more. I don't really read history books, but I have recently come across the term of narrative history, and that's something that I think that I might be into. I usually get put off by history books because either the section is really daunting, or I'm scared that it's going to be really dull, or I don't know exactly what I'm interested in reading about. But I think it's just a case of I just need to go for it, and I think that narrative history sounds like something that might work. In terms of country or time period and all of that, I'm not entirely sure yet, but basically I want to read 4 history books. I've also written down here to read 4 nature writing books. I think I'll find that kind of easy. There's a lot of nature writing books that have been on my radar. I do have a couple on my shelves to read as well, so that should be pretty easy. And then I've written here just generally read more non-fiction. I think that this is just a frequent thing that comes up every year. I do really like non-fiction, but I never read it enough, so I did really enjoy Non-Fiction November this month, but I think that's something that I want to continue to do throughout the year, is to try and read a lot more non-fiction. I have also written down here, buy less books, read what you own and use the library. I think that's just going to be my motto for next year. I have a lot of books that I haven't read, and I think that it's important to get through them. Another kind of goal, I guess, is to go through them and get rid of books that I do not want to read, get rid of books that I've read and wasn't fussed on, and to really be a little bit more ruthless in the collection that I do own. I want to work towards curating a bookshelf that basically just contains all the books that I love. That's kind of my aim. So I don't want to hold on to these books that are, you know, they're all right, or they're okay, or they're a bit shit. You know, I want to have books that I love. A goal that has been on my mind probably for 6 months or so. I've had it in my mind that 2018 is going to be the year of rereads. I don't really reread anything, and I think that it's something that's really important, to go back to old favourites, to revisit books that you've kind of, you know, you don't completely remember them, and to, you know, just experience what it's like to reread a book, because I think it might offer something completely different to the first experience you had of reading it. So that's something I definitely want to do a lot more of next year. I've already got several books in mind for that, so even books that I've read this year I do want to reread next year. So this comes down to really spending the time with the books a lot more than I have in previous years. So that's why I'm cutting down on the number of books I want to read, and that's why I'm increasing the number of books I want to reread. And I guess that's my major goals for next year. There's nothing on that list that's majorly unachievable. I have also written down on my list to get my eyes tested, so that's obviously a very important aim for next year. I can't see with my glasses and I can't see without them. I've written so many other stupid things on here, but anyway, those are the ones that are related to reading and booktube. I'd love to know what you guys do in terms of planning your year, if you do it at all. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.